You've noticed that every time you're around your family, you tend to feel lonely. It feels like you don't fit. It feels like you don't belong there, even though you desperately want to. The desire to belong is an innate human desire. If you desire to feel connected to and be acknowledged by your family, know that that's completely normal. However, if you feel lonely around them, here's what's happening. Stay with me until the end of this video to see how the pattern of family loneliness plays out. There's a special kind of loneliness that only happens around the people who are supposed to know you the best. It's not the loneliness of being physically alone, it's the loneliness of being surrounded by people who can't and don't see you. You're probably watching this video because the title resonated with you, because you feel this way. And if you feel this way, you've probably also heard, and maybe you've heard throughout your life, that you're too difficult or that you're too sensitive, you're too overwhelming. Maybe you've heard that you haven't tried hard enough to connect to these people. And maybe you've also heard that, hey, you haven't been around all that much. But if you think deeply about it, have you ever really been accepted as you are? Or are you rather forced into playing a role when you're with these people? Do you feel safe to show who you really are around them? Or is it an almost automatic switch into a performance, a mask that you've probably worn your entire life? I've lived through this dynamic, and this, if you experience this, it's an old childhood pattern. And here's how it works. When you were young, you needed your family for survival, not just physically, but also emotionally. Every child needs to feel seen and accepted and valued for who they are. But in some families and in some cultures, love comes with conditions. And one of those conditions is that your family expects you to be who they need you to be, not who you really are. It's possible that as a child, you saw the world differently than they did. You probably had values they couldn't understand, or interests they dismissed, or emotions they labeled as too much or too sensitive. Instead of celebrating what made you unique, they tried to shape you into their version of who you should be, because in their eyes, you were not a separate person. You were an extension of them, an extension of the family system. This dynamic happens in highly dysfunctional families, families where there's a history of trauma and maybe personality disorders. What this often looks like is that your achievements only matter if they align with what their values are. Your feelings are dismissed if they make others around you uncomfortable. Your dreams are questioned if they don't fit into the family narrative. And your unique tastes and preferences are often seen as a betrayal. The thing is, when this happens and you're very young, you learn to start hiding yourself just to survive. So you probably learned to hide parts of yourself, to mold yourself into your family's expectations. You learn to become quieter and smaller and more acceptable. You learned that peace means to pretend to be someone you're not. If you've been watching up until this point, keep watching, because here's what can set you free from this painful pattern. The loneliness you feel around your family isn't only about them not accepting you. At a deeper level, it's about you rejecting yourself, because that's what you learned. You've learned that every time you're around your family, you censor your thoughts before speaking. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You hide your accomplishments to avoid triggering them. You agree with opinions you don't share. And the most painful, you suppress your emotions to keep the peace. The problem is that every time you do this, you're going further and further away from who you really are. And that's why you're feeling lonely, because you're pretending to be someone you're not. That ache that you feel is the fact that you've lost connection to yourself. When you reject your true self to maintain connection with people who can't accept you, you end up with neither. You lose yourself and you still don't have genuine connection with these people. Want some homework? Think about whether this also applies to your workplace and your friends. Because when we grow up like this, we've probably carried on this pattern into our adult lives. Some signs are you seek approval from people for decisions you've already made. You downplay your success to avoid their jealousy or criticism. You defend your life choices instead of simply living them. And you need days to recover after seeing certain people. This pattern, it runs deep because it was formed when you were young and vulnerable. Your nervous system learned that being yourself means rejection and danger. Many of us are still waiting for our families, our significant others, to finally see us, to celebrate who we really are, to apologize for not accepting us. But that permission and acknowledgement might never come. So, don't put your authentic life on hold for these people. All right, so now you're probably thinking, should I cut off my family or not? And this confuses a lot of people. It might be necessary for some to do so. It might not be necessary for others. It's a personal choice that depends on your individual situation. That said, there is a way to stay connected to yourself even when you're around them. You have to recognize that your worth is not determined by their inability to see you. You don't need their validation to live in an authentic way. Feeling different from them doesn't make you wrong, and you are allowed to protect your peace. That said, this can be very difficult to sustain if you're in a dysfunctional environment for too long. Instead, build connections with people who celebrate you as you are. It's okay to be sad that your family couldn't give you what you needed. But don't let that stop you from giving yourself the love, validation, and acknowledgement you deserve. Don't abandon yourself for other people's comfort. Don't ever get comfortable with disappearing. And don't ever shrink yourself to fit into a system that isn't capable of understanding you. Instead, create a life where you can expand, where you can unapologetically use your gifts. And little by little, the loneliness will start shrinking. It will. Because when you fill yourself with the light that is truly you, there is no space for darkness to linger. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to my channel. I share new videos every week on family dynamics, healing, and finding your way back to yourself.